I was looking at my phone this morning, this little slab of glass that has like the sum of all human knowledge on it, and I realized something.
Oh, yeah.
Statistically speaking, you and I are living in the most comfortable, the safest era in all of human history.
Right.
We have temperature control, we have Uber Eats, we have anesthesia,
And yet,
and yet if you look at the data, or, I mean, just look around a coffee shop, we are remarkably bad at actually enjoying any of it.
right.
We spend a huge chunk of our time just stressed or anxious or just sort of vaguely unsatisfied.
It's the great paradox of modernity, isn't it? We've engineered the outside world to be almost perfect, but the inside world, the actual, experience of being you or me, is still a bit of a chaotic mess.
Which brings us perfectly to today's deep dive. We are unpacking a transcript from a talk. It was released by the Motivation Art channel. And I have to say, this is not your standard hustle harder motivational speech.
No, not at all.
It reads more like an operating manual for the human machine that, like, got lost in the mail about 10,000 years ago.
It really does. It's a dense philosophical breakdown, but what I loved is that it pulls from biology, evolutionary science, and some pretty heavy metaphysics.
Mm-hmm.
And the core argument is just fascinating. It suggests that human intelligence, our greatest superpower, is actually the source of all our misery.
Right. It's not the world that's the problem. It's the software we're running.
Yeah.
And the solution the source proposes is, well, it's unconventional.
To say the least.
The argument is that the key to stopping this misery is admitting that we are, quite literally, topsoil.
It sounds so bleak when you just say it like that, but the source argues that realizing you are temporary organic material is the only thing that actually liberates you.
So we're going to get into the heavy stuff, life, death, the cosmos, but I have to flag something for you right up front.
Uh-oh.
Somewhere between the philosophy of existence and the nature of the soul, this text makes a very specific, very clinical detour into compulsive nose-picking.
It is a vivid example. I don't think I'll ever forget it.
It definitely sticks with you. But, okay, let's start with the foundation. The source opens by trying to define what we're all actually chasing. We use words like success or happiness, but they're so vague. How does this text pin it down?
The speaker argues that we overcomplicate it. We think we want the Ferrari or the big family or the promotion, but those are just vehicles. What every human being is fundamentally seeking is pleasantness of experience.
Pleasantness. Okay, that sounds a bit mild, doesn't it? Like a nice cup of tea?
It does, but he uses it as an umbrella term. He creates this whole hierarchy of vocabulary list, really based on where that pleasantness happens.
Okay, so break that down for me.
So start with the body. If your body feels pleasant, we call that health.
Okay, health. Simple enough.
If that bodily feeling becomes very intense, we call it pleasure.
Got it. So eating a great meal or, other things. That's pleasantness in the body.
Exactly. Now move up to the mind. If your mind becomes pleasant, we label that peace.
Right.
And if it ramps up to a high intensity, that becomes joy.
Okay, and then emotions.
Pleasant emotion is love. Intense, pleasant emotion is compassion.
And the top level.
The highest level is your life energies themselves. If those become pleasant, it's bliss. And the absolute peak of that is ecstasy.
So health, peace, love, bliss. That's the target list. The argument here is that everything else we do, working jobs, building houses, getting married, it's all just a roundabout way to trigger one of those four states.
Right. But here is the trap, and this is where most of us fail. The source distinguishes between creating pleasantness around you versus within you.
And we spend all our time on the around, don't we?
Almost exclusively. We want the stock market to go up. We want our kids to behave. We want the traffic to clear. We want the weather to be, 72 degrees and sunny.
We're trying to engineer the entire world just to make us feel good.
Which is a terrible strategy because you can't control any of that. You need the cooperation of a million other people and forces. You're basically gambling your happiness on whether other people act the way you want them to.
It's a recipe for anxiety.
Precisely. But the source insists that creating pleasantness in your body, your mind, your emotions is 100% your business. It requires zero permission from anyone else.
I love that phrase, 100% your business.
Yeah.
But that just begs the question, if it's our business and it's the only thing we actually want, why are we so incompetent at it?
Right. Why is the default state for so many people just stress or this low-level anxiety?
Exactly.
This is where we get into what the source calls the evolutionary problem. We tend to blame the world, oh, my job is stressful, or the news is depressing. But the text argues the problem isn't the content of our lives, it's the machinery we're using to process it.
There's that line that made me laugh out loud. If you had the brain of an earthworm, you would be quite peaceful.
It's funny, but it's scientifically valid. An earthworm isn't worried about its retirement fund. It's not replaying an awkward conversation from a party 3 years ago.
It's just being a worm.
It's just being a worm. It fits perfectly into its environment because it doesn't have the hardware to worry. And the source drops a really specific number here about our evolution, the DNA difference between a human and a chimpanzee.
It's tiny, right? It's something crazy.
It's only about 1.23%. Physiologically, we are incredibly similar to apes. But in terms of intelligence neuronal capability, we are light years ahead.
Wow.
The argument is that this jump from ape to human happened way too fast in evolutionary time. We haven't stabilized yet.
So we're like a high-performance supercomputer strapped to a bicycle chassis.
That is a perfect analogy. The source calls us a fluctuating species, and because we don't have a stable platform for this massive intelligence, it just turns against us. We use memory to suffer things that happened 10 years ago, and we use imagination to suffer things that might never even happen.
We are the only creature on the planet that can make itself miserable without anything actually happening to us right now.
Because our intelligence isn't taking instructions from us, it's just running wild. And this brings us to the loose steering wheel analogy.
Right. Imagine driving a high-performance car. You want to turn right, but the steering wheel is loose, so the car just veers off to the left.
That is the experience of anxiety. It's not that you want to be anxious. Nobody wakes up and says, I think I'll have a panic attack today.
Right.
You are steering toward peace, but your mind is veering off into panic.
And this brings us to the clinical evidence. The nose picking.
Yes. I was waiting for this.
So the speaker recounts talking to these top psychiatrists in the UK, and they listed 72 varieties of mental ailments. And one of them is compulsive nose picking.
It sounds like a playground insult, but they're describing a state where someone picks until they literally bleed. They know they should stop, they want to stop, it physically hurts them, but they cannot.
It's just this tragic, visceral example of the intelligence not taking instructions. You are not in charge of your own faculty. And the source says, if your mind takes instructions from you, it's a miracle. Usually it's doing its own thing.
That is a terrifying thought. It implies that for most of us, the director of our life isn't actually on set.
Or worse, the director is drunk. The source really leans into this movie analogy. We tend to confuse our psychological drama, the thoughts and the loops in our head, with actual reality.
This is such a crucial distinction. The life process is you sitting here, breathing, your heart beating, you're existing. The drama is the story you were telling yourself about it.
And the source is very, very blunt here. You are the director of this drama. So if you are sitting in a comfortable chair, perfectly safe, but you're directing a horror movie in your head about a presentation you have next week.
Then you are a lousy director.
Ouch.
It's harsh, but it's true, isn't it? Why would you choose to direct a tragedy or a horror movie when you could direct a comedy or a romance?
I guess the only reason we do it is that we've lost control of the production. We've forgotten that we're the ones making it up.
Totally.
The text has a great breakdown of sanity based on this. It says, building a castle in the air is fine. That's imagination. Architects do it. Artists do it. But if you think the castle is real...
That's neurosis. You've lost your perspective.
And if you try to move in and live in the castle...
That's psychosis. You've left reality completely.
And the person collecting rent for this imaginary castle.
That is the psychiatrist.
I really appreciated that jab. But the serious point is that memory and imagination are just tools. They're just data. If we lose the boundary between data and reality, we suffer.
So the first big takeaway here is, you have to stabilize the steering wheel. Recognize that your thoughts are just a drama you're directing. And if it's all made up anyway, you might as well make it pleasant.
But to do that, to really take control, the source says we have to confront the one thing our entire society is built to ignore.
Mortality.
We are back to being topsoil.
Yeah, this section of the transcript is jarring because it challenges how we view our own bodies. We think of our body as us, but the source reminds us that the body is not a permanent structure, it is an accumulation.
Just a pile of food.
Literally.
Huh.
Every single cell in your body is made of the food you ate, which came from the earth. The source calls us pop-ups from the planet.
Pop-ups, I like that.
We pop up from the soil, we walk around for a bit, and then we sink back down.
And the source adds this really humbling biological detail. about our parents to drive this home.
The stingy parents comment.
I loved that.
It notes that your parents only contributed 1 cell each. 2 cells. That's it. If you weigh, say, 180 pounds now, almost all of that weight is just gathered earth. You collected it.
I made this.
You did. You gathered it through lunch and dinner. But eventually, the earth is going to ask for it back.
It's just a recycling program. But the source argues that we treat death as this, distant event that happens at the end of the road. But in reality, death is a tango happening right now.
Inhalation is life. Exhalation is death.
Okay, walk me through that.
Well, just think about it. If you don't exhale, you die. If you don't inhale, you die. It's a constant exchange. You are borrowing matter, using it, and giving it back constantly. The source says you are playing yo-yo with life every few seconds.
So why is this supposed to be uplifting? Usually reminding people they're going to die is a total buzzkill.
Because it provides perspective. The source argues, realizing you are on a limited lease of time is the only thing that makes you sensible.
It cuts through all the noise.
Right. If you genuinely know, not just intellectually, but deep down in your bones, that you are topsoil with an expiration date, you stop holding grudges. You stop doing work that makes you miserable. You just don't have time for the nonsense.
It's the ultimate prioritization tool. Yes to life, yes to death. You can't separate them.
And the source warns that if you try to resist death, if you try to pretend it's not happening, you actually stop living. The fear of death doesn't postpone death. It just stifles life.
Okay, so this leads us into the deepest, most metaphysical part of the talk. We've handled the mind and the body. But the source makes a really tricky distinction about life itself.
This is where we have to stretch our brains a little bit. The speaker says, there is my body and there is my mind, but there is no such thing as my life.
Okay, that sounds crazy. I think we need the soap bubble analogy for this one.
It's a great image. Imagine you're blowing soap bubbles. You have a wand, you have soap, and you blow air into it. You capture a little pocket of air inside a thin film of soap. That bubble floats around for a few seconds.
That's us. That bubble is an individual life.
Right. Now, when the bubble pops, where does the air go?
It just goes back into the atmosphere.
Exactly. You can't point to a spot in the room and say, that is my air. The air was always universal. You just captured a tiny bit of it for a moment.
Wow.
The source says life is the same. There is a universal life force, and we just capture some of it in this bubble of a body.
And what holds the bubble together, the soap film, is memory.
Yes, but not just, I remember my 10th birthday memory. The source lists these layers of memory that define the specific shape of your bubble.
Okay, let's run through these because it's fascinating how broad the definition of memory is here.
Yeah.
First is elemental memory.
That's the memory of the 5 elements, earth, water, air, and so on interacting to create life. It's the basic code of physics and chemistry.
Then there is evolutionary memory. This is the one that prevents me from turning into a dog if I eat dog food.
Or, as the source jokes, if you eat Mexican food, you don't turn into an amigo.
That was a specific line in the text. But the point is valid. My body has a memory of human structure. It knows how to take a taco and turn it into a human, not a cactus. And that is a massively complex memory system we don't even think about.
Then you have genetic memory and karmic memory. These are what give your bubble its specific quirks, your personality, your tendencies. It's why you are you and not just a generic human.
The source also gives a very specific biological timeline for when this life enters the bubble during pregnancy.
It states that life typically infuses into the ball of cells between 40 and 48 days after conception. The maximum is generally 54 days. Before that, it's just biological construction work, preparing the housing.
And the choosier tenants, the specific qualities of life, might wait until that 54-day mark.
That's the implication. But the big takeaway here isn't just the biology, it's about the size of the bubble. The source says that human restlessness, that feeling of I need more, comes from having a bubble that is too small.
The quote was, "You work as hard as you want. Maybe you'll become a billionaire, but you will not be significant in your own experience."
Because you haven't captured enough life. You're trying to fill the void with accessories, cars, status, relationships. But the void is simply a lack of life exuberance. If you blow a bigger bubble, if you capture more of that universal life force, you don't need to do anything to feel significant. Just sitting there is enough.
That sounds incredibly peaceful, to just sit and be enough. So let's try to bring this all together into a toolkit. We've got a loose steering wheel, we're lousy directors, and we're walking piles of topsoil. How do we actually fix this?
The source boils it all down to one single concept: willingness.
Willingness versus unwillingness.
The source poses a scenario to explain this. Imagine you are in a pitch black room. You can't see a thing, but you are there absolutely willingly. How does it feel?
It feels fine. Maybe even relaxing. A chance to rest my eyes.
Now imagine you are in that same black room, but you are there unwillingly. You're locked in.
It's a prison. It's torture.
The room hasn't changed. The darkness hasn't changed. Only your willingness has changed. The source says if you are in paradise, but you are there unwillingly, even paradise becomes hell.
So heaven and hell aren't geographic locations. They're descriptions of your willingness.
That is the core secret. The source says if you live your life absolutely willingly, every breath becomes heavenly. You stop fighting the process. You accept the traffic. You accept the job. You accept aging.
And you accept the death.
You have to. You cannot say yes to life and no to death because, as we just discussed, they are the same process.
There was a really provocative thought at the end of the text about aging and this acceptance.
Yeah.
The timely versus untimely death.
Yeah, it's a critique of how we age today. The source mentions an 85-year-old man who sees a young woman and goes, "Wow," and his friends all applaud him for being young at heart.
But the source says, no, that's inappropriate. Not morally, but existentially.
Right. If you're 85, you should have graduated past those youthful drives. You should be preparing to complete the full cycle gracefully. If you are still clinging to the desires of a teenager, you're just struggling against the nature of things.
It frames death as a graduation, not a failure.
Exactly. When you realize the body and the status are just things you gathered, just topsoil, you can let them go when the lease is up without fear. You aren't losing yourself, you're just returning the rental equipment.
So to recap our manual for being human, number 1, realize your intelligence is a tool, not the master. Fix the steering wheel.
Right.
2, be a better director. If you're going to hallucinate a drama in your head, at least make it a comedy.
Please.
3, remember you are topsoil on a limited lease. Don't waste time. And 4, do it all willingly.
That's the formula. It's simple, but it requires constant practice.
It really changes how you look at a generic Tuesday. Am I stuck in this meeting unwillingly, creating hell? Or am I just sitting here willingly observing the drama?
The situation is the same. The experience is entirely up to you.
Well, there you have it. A guide to the mechanics of bliss. I think I'm going to go work on my Castle in the Air renovations. I need to evict the psychiatrist.
I think that is a very healthy decision.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. Here is a question to leave you with today. If you stripped away your job, your relationships, your body, and your memories, what is actually left inside the bubble? Is it enough? Something to chew on. We'll see you next time.